and welcome to day one of the 2025 12 days of crochet. This year's theme is Crochet Mischief, and we're gonna get right into it. So yesterday I gave you the clue for today, which is this creature is responsible for accidentally, that's the bit here, accidentally planting millions of trees every year. Here it is. So let's see who we're making for day one. Okay, so for day one we are making a little red squirrel. Squirrels are apparently responsible for millions of trees getting planted every year because they hide their acorns and they forget where they've put them. And I know that's not strictly mischief, but I feel like this creature makes it on this list for a variety of other reasons. I think it's still a valid entry. Now, I obviously filmed these all in advance, but you can check the comment section down below. I will have pinned a comment telling you how many people I saw with correct guesses. Okay, let's talk tools and materials. So, to make our little red squirrel for day one, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn in 2 colours. You're going to need a red or a grey or an orange. I'm going to be using a colour called Outback today, as well as a white for his little tummy. You're also going to need a 3.5mm hook, scissors, some stuffing, and a pair of 9mm safety eyes. I also suggest that you have a needle handy for the finishing details, and a bobby pin or stitch marker is always useful in helping us keep track of the end of the row. But that's it. And this little guy is going to take you about 30 minutes to make. Don't forget to stick around, there will be a clue for day 2 at the end of this video. And for our little squirrel friend today, we're actually going to start at the tip of the nose. Hello. How about up there? Okay, good. Okay, and we're going to start in our red with a magic ring of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, like so. Row 2 is then 3 repeats of a single crochet and an increase. And I do work invisible increases. That just means I work the first stitch of the increase through the front loop only, and the second stitch of the increase through both loops. Standard increases are perfectly fine for these patterns. So there is our first repeat, and we're going to do that 2 more times around to bring our row up to 9. It's 2. And 3. Row 3 is 3 repeats of 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and then an increase. So there's our first repeat, and we're going to do that 2 more times around to bring our row up to 12. That's 2. And that's 3. So we should have 12 stitches in our round. We're then going to work 2 rows of 12 single crochet around for a combined total of 24 stitches. Like so. So there is the head of our little squirrel. And in the next row, we're going to be forming his little ears. So we're going to start by working a single crochet, then a single crochet 3 together. And we are going to be doing a lot of these over the next few days. So a single crochet 3 together is basically a decrease worked over 3 stitches instead of 2. So there are 2 different ways that you can work these. There's the standard way, which is just inserting your hook into the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert your hook into the second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then insert your hook into the third stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, leaving you with 4 loops in total on your hook. You then just yarn over and pull through all 4 stitches, and that is your single crochet 3 together. And that is the easier form of this decrease. I personally prefer the invisible form of this decrease, which is where you pick up just the front loops of the 3 stitches we're decreasing over. Then you yarn over and pull up a loop through all 3, and it leaves you with just 2 loops on your hook. You then yarn over and pull through those final 2 loops. It sits a little bit flatter, but it can be a little bit more difficult to do, particularly in very tight spaces or if you have really tight tension. So use whichever one you're more comfortable with, and you'll probably spot me swapping backwards and forwards between the 2, depending on where they're falling. So I'll make sure that I let you know if I'm going to be working a standard one, just so that you can play along. We're then just going to work a single crochet. Now that brings us to the location of the first little ear. To work this ear, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're then going to turn, and starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to work a single crochet and then a double crochet. So just in case you need a reminder, a double crochet is when you yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through the second 2 loops, leaving you with a finished double crochet. We're then going to go back to working into the head, being careful to move to the next stitch around. So we're not skipping any stitches of the round, but sometimes this one here can be a little bit confusing, but it's clearly already been worked into. So we're just going to make sure that we're working into the next free stitch. And I'm going to put 2 single crochet around, 1 and 2. And we're going to work the second little ear the exact same way. So chain 3 and turn, a single crochet into the first chain, and a double crochet into the second chain. There we go. Then we're going back to working into the round, again being careful not to skip any stitches or double up on any stitches. And we will be working 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and then another single crochet 3 together. So we have our little ears formed here. And at this point we're going to stop and we're going to pop our eyes in. Now, for a lot of the 12 days this year, I'm not actually going to be using safety eyes, but this little guy they felt necessary. So I'm going to pop my safety eyes into row 3. 1, 2, 3. And I just tend to plonk them in on either side in the snoot. 1, 2, 3. And then move them around a little bit until I'm happy. But you want roughly 2 stitches visible between them. Like so. And I'm trying to make it so that my ears are sitting relatively straight as well. So when you're happy with your eye position, snap the backs on. Let's see if we can get some popping noises to give us good luck for the rest of this series. That was disappointing. It wasn't bad. It could have been worse. Fun fact, if you find the stems of your plastic eyes are too long, I found that a pair of wire cutters can knock the back notch off mine pretty easily. And yours might be the same. Okay, so with that accomplished, we are heading into row 7. Oh, and it looks like we were supposed to do a color change at the end of row 6, so let's just frog that final single crochet 3 together and work it as a color change now. So to work this single crochet 3 together as a color change, you get all the way up to the final yarn over and pull through. So if you're doing an invisible one, it's the point where you have 2 loops on your hook, and if you're doing the standard single crochet 3 together, it's at the point where you have the 4 loops on your hook. Then you hold your yarn out of the way on the inside of the head. Then you're grabbing your white, which is the tummy color, and I'm going to pinch it on the inside of the work at the base of the stitch. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through whatever loops I have on my hook. I'm going to tug on the red to scooch it down into place, and it should leave me with a finished single crochet 3 together, but my white is now on my hook ready to go. And I am going to just take a moment and I'm going to tie these little tails together, but I'm not going to trim any of my colors off because we will be swapping backwards and forwards between these two pretty frequently for the next chunk of squirrel. Now, and it's up to you entirely if you want to carry your colors around or if you just want to pull them across the inside of your work. I'm probably just going to pull mine across. So in our white, we're going to work 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, changing back to our red in the 3rd stitch. So that's 1 and 2, and then this is our 3rd one, and just on that final yarn over and pull through, I'm changing back to my red. Then in our red, we're going to work an increase, a single crochet, which should be the last free stitch before your first ear. And we're going to be working a single crochet 3 together, and I'm going to work this one the standard way. So there are 2 stitches between the ears on top of the head. I'm then going to fold the second little ear forward and pick up the first stitch on the outside of that ear. Like so. So you'll see that that single crochet 3 together falls behind both of those ears. That's going to pinch the top of the head in nicely. Make sure your ears are on the outside though, they're not super helpful if they're on the inside. We're then going to finish off our round with a single crochet and an increase. So that is what we look like at the end of row 7. You should have 10 stitches in your round, 3 of them are white and 7 of them are red. And the next stitch in our round should fall into a white stitch. So we're heading into the body chunk now, where we're going to be building some little paws. So for row 8, we start by working all into the same stitch, 3 single crochet, changing to our white, 1, 2, 3, and then still into that stitch, because that's where the brackets are, 2 more stitches in our white. 1 and 2. Now, That's going to do its best to gobble up the next stitch of the round, so just keep an eye on that. You should have 2 white stitches still left to work into. And we are going to work a single crochet into the next stitch around. And then in the final white stitch, we're going to work all into the same stitch again. 2 single crochet in our white, changing back to our red. And then 3 red single crochet, still all in that same stitch. So it should be 5 stitches in total, all into the same stitch. But we needed them to be 2 different colors, and that's why the notation was a little bit different. Then working in our red, we're going to work 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, a single crochet 3 together, which should fall across the back of the head, and the middle stitch of it should be the single crochet 3 together we worked last round. And then 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1 and 2. Now, if you would like to, you can stop at this point and just put a little bit of stuffing into his head. Okay, row 9 starts with 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, leaving us with just 1 red stitch before we hit our white again. And into it, we're going to work 5 single crochet, changing to our white in the 5th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In our white, we're going to work 5 single crochet across, which should all fall into white stitches. And we're going to change back to our red in the 5th one. So 4 and 5, changing to our red. With our red, we're then going to work 5 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you'll note that I'm just noticing that I do this. I pinch the next stitch in the round while I'm working those stitches, just so that I don't lose it. So then when I go to work the next stitch, I just sort of release the crab claw so I have a stitch to work into. Then it's 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3, and 2 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1 and 2. So you should have 26 stitches in total around your squirrel at the moment. And he looks like this. And I'm going to show this sort of thing frequently because a lot of the 12 days of crochet are going to look very wrong and then they'll suddenly work and you'll wonder what happened. We're almost at that point with this little guy. He's kind of looking triangular. For row 10, we're going to start with 3 single crochet. 1, 2, and 3, leaving you with 4 red stitches before your white. And we're going to skip 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, and work our next stitch into that final red stitch. So fold it forward so that we're working our stitch behind so that the little paw kind of like folds outwards. And we're going to work a single crochet, changing to our white. There's his first little paw. His poor little paw. We're going to work 5 single crochet across the belly, changing back to our red in the 5th stitch. Then 1 single crochet, skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. So this is the next stitch we're working into. Then 6 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. And that's going to look a little bit off center, and that's okay. 1, 2, 3. So you'll see that that's kind of starting to swing to the right. I think it's because I pull my stitches to the right, being right-handed. But that should be fine as long as your paws are approximately either side of the head. The back doesn't super matter. Then 3 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3. He looks like a little squirrel that swallowed the whole acorn. In row 11, we're starting with a single crochet. Then we're going to single crochet 5 together, changing to our white. So I'm going to do this the standard way, but the invisible way is also fine. So just picking up loops for the next 5 stitches. So that's 3 red stitches and 2 white stitches. But we're changing to our white, so I'm then holding my red out of the way, changing to my white and pulling it through all of those loops. There we go, so that's just finishing off that little arm. Then it's 1 white single crochet, changing back to our red, and a second single crochet 5 together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once again, it's 2 white stitches and 3 red ones. And we cinch that on in. Then it's 10 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10. There we are at the end of row 11. We should have 14 stitches in our round. That's the front paws finished, and we are now going to be heading into like the belly and the back paws. Please note that if the arms are facing forwards and the head is pointing straight up, mine's doing that too. Basically, one of the final things we can choose to do is either leave him facing forward and being on all fours, or we can tilt his head down into like the pose I have this one in. So, oh, he's got poses. Row 12 starts with 1 single crochet, changing to our white. Then 3 increases in our white, changing back to our red in the final stitch. It's 1, 2, first stitch of the third one, and changing back to our red in the second stitch of the third one. Then it is 10 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3, and it should leave you with 1 red stitch before your white stitches. But interesting note about the color changes here. If you see where my paws are positioned, you'll see that my white appears to be like swinging off to one side and not so much on the other side. So it does appear to be a little uneven at this point. You will not notice this on the final squirrel. So it's perfectly fine to be unsure about this particular process, but that's why I'm showing you the ugly truth about the process itself. So row 13 starts with a single crochet, changing to our white. 7 single crochet, changing back to our red. And then 9 single crochet back to the start of our row. 8 and 9. See, just like that, that white marking is already looking more even on both sides. Then row 14 is 2 single crochet, changing to our white in the second stitch. 6 single crochet, changing back to our red. And then 9 single crochet back to the start of our round. Okay, so we've reached the end of the belly. Now we're going to be making his little back feet. So row 15 starts with 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, bringing us to the first white stitch. And this is where our first little back foot is going to go. Now, just to account for drift here, please note that's as far as mine has drifted away from the front arms. I'd say this one here is directly underneath it, and we're 2 stitches further out than that. So if yours are falling somewhere further up the back, please work single crochet until you are roughly to one side of your first paw to make this first leg. Then we're going to work 5 single crochet into the same stitch, changing back to our white in the 5th stitch. 3, 4, and in this 5th one, we're changing back to our white. Then 4 single crochet in our white, changing back to our red. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the start of our second little back foot. So 5 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 6 single crochet around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the next stitch should be roughly the middle of the back, falling pretty close to being directly between the two ears. And we're actually starting the tail here as well. So we're going to work another 5 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then 2 single crochet, back to the start of our round. So you've worked 29 stitches in that round, and that is the widest we get for this particular fellow. And in doing so, you have established both back feet as well as the start of the tail. Then in row 16, we're going to lock all of that in. So in our red, we're going to work 3 single crochet, changing to our white. 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, making sure that that little flap folds forward and out to form a little foot, and then work 6 white single crochet across the tummy, starting in this red stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the 6th one, changing back to our red. We're going to skip the next 3 stitches again, 1, 2, 3, and then work 8 single crochet up this side. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 8. Then an increase. 1 and 2. 5 single crochet all into the same stitch, which is going to be very squishy. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once again, I have a death grip on the next stitch of the round so that I don't lose it. And then another increase. 1, 2, then 3 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, and 3. Now, for those of you paying a little bit more attention, you might notice we have 6 stitches on one side between our belly and our tail and 8 stitches on the other. And that just seems to be what works for my level of drift. So that's just why those two numbers are different, when normally you would expect them to be the same. So there we are at the end of row 16. We no longer need our white, and we can trim that off and untangle ourselves. Which is a bit of a relief because I was getting a little bit tangly. Okay, for row 17, we start with a single crochet, then 2 single crochet 5 togethers, and I'll work those the standard way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that first one is 2 red stitches and then 3 white stitches. And the second one is 3 white stitches and then 2 red stitches. Kind of close in the bottoms of those legs a little bit. We're then going to work 8 single crochet. 1, 2, 7, and 8. 4 increases. And these are getting very, very squashy, but that's just how you kind of get the tail to bend back on itself, is by forcing lots of little stitches into a little space they don't want to go into. That's 2, 3, 4, then 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. Now, if you've been marking the end of your rows, you'll know that we're stopping 3 stitches back from the end of our row. And we're going to be skipping those 3 stitches. And then at the start of row 18, you'll see we're skipping 8 more. So we're skipping 11 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So the 12th stitch from your hook is the next stitch you're going to work into. And we're going to work 5 single crochet. So we have moved on to row 18 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 4 more increases. 1, 2, 3, 4, then 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and a single crochet 3 together to get us back to the start of our new round. Okay, so just to recap what we currently look like, because a lot just happened. What we have here is the 11 stitches that we've just skipped, which are kind of like forming an opening at the base of your squirrel. And we formed a new round here where we are building the tail. Now this opening at the bottom, we're just going to weave yarn through or use a needle and sew it shut at the end. So no more stitches will be worked into those. And we're just going to continue building up this little flip of a tail until it forms a proper plume. This guy's a good little starting point for the 12 days this year, just because he introduces us very gently to a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to be doing some ridiculous stuff with later. In my opinion. Anyway, you guys be the judge. Row 19, it starts with a single crochet 3 together, 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4 increases, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then a decrease to get us back to the start of our round. Now I'm going to move this, that's not a helpful place for that. Row 20 starts with 3 decreases. 1, 2, 3, 5 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 3 decreases back to the start of our round. 1, 2, and 3. So that should leave us with just 11 stitches in our round, and we're going to work 2 rows of 11 single crochet around for a combined total of 22 stitches. There we go. And at this point, we are going to stuff the tail section of our squirrel. Get it on in there. All the way up to the opening, and you can stop and stuff the body of the squirrel now as well. With your squirrel completely stuffed, we're going to move on to our final row, which is row 23, starting with a single crochet and then 5 decreases. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and finish off. So we have a little bit of an opening left at the tip of our tail. We're just going to weave our remaining yarn around through the front loops only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and pull it tight to close like a little drawstring bag and tuck that end down inside the tail. So that is all of the crochet done. And now we have a couple of little finishing details, namely the fact his butt is still open. No, we can't phrase it that way. Namely the fact that he still has this sort of hole in his base. So that's our current perspective. You need to pick what pose you would like for him. So in this little default state, he looks like a cute little squirrel who's like scurrying along the ground looking for mischief. That said, we can... No, we should do the base first. So for this, I do suggest a needle, but let it be known that this can absolutely be done with a hook, just the same way we did the opening at the end of the tail. So I'm just going to take a little bit of yarn and we're going to flatten this opening down so that it sort of lines up with the tail. And we want pairs of stitches along that opening. There are 11 stitches, so there'll be 1 at the end, and you want that 1 at the end to sit down near the belly. And that is where I'm going to attach my yarn, just with basically a knot. So then using the front loops only, I'm just going to like work from one side back towards myself, like this, And then the next pair, front loop only, front loop only. So front loop only, front loop only. It's basically like tying a pair of shoes. You can see how easy it would be to do with a hook as well. There we go. And you get very nice, sorry, I've pulled a little bit of stuffing into mine. But basically a very nice, almost invisible little join that just kind of looks like the stitches around it. And it takes no time whatsoever to do. So let's tuck that little end away inside. And from here, you kind of need to decide if you want to adjust the pose of your little squirrel. So in his default state, like this, his head is sort of, in his default state like this, his head is down and he looks like he's like scurrying around looking for Mischief, which is honestly really cute. But he can also be put into a little seated pose like this one here. He's just a little overstuffed, but he does sit up. I'm tempted to leave him like this. But in order to put him in a little seated pose, what you do is we want to anchor the tail up the back a little bit, which I'll do now with the same piece of yarn. Just a quick little stitch through the tail into the body. And then you want to grab the head and tilt it down and just sew the underside of the jaw to the chest as well. Now this is an optional pose, but just because it's slightly more complex than just like leaving it the way it was, I thought we'd go through it on camera, just so you could see that there's possibilities here. And I think technically the sitting upright pose is the official pose for this little guy. Golly, he's cute though. Such a little bean. You might need to give his ears a little like tug to get them up into position. And don't forget to like secure the other end of your yarn as well. There is our finished squirrel. It's a squirrel conga line. Bum, 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 ba. Bum, 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 ba. Okay, so there is day one done. I hope you had fun. Don't forget to leave your photos over on the Discord so that they can show up in tomorrow's video. And of course, the final item of business is the clue for day two. Okay, so day two made it to this list for being kind of just a general menace, but if I wanted to be specific, there are reports of them walking through campgrounds and pulling up tent pegs and just skittering off because they can. It was also just a little too good of an opportunity to put this particular creature on day two. It will also take you about 30 minutes, and I suggest that you have grey, white, and black available. If you think you know what it is, leave your guesses in the comments down below, and I will let you know tomorrow how many people I saw get it correct. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.